Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to Frank's Driveway. Today on my docket is my 2008 Pontiac G5. Problem we have today is we have a bad strut bearing on the driver's side. You can hear that boom, boom, boom. That's the strut bearing on the. Now, this is some of the parts and pieces. Here's the problem with my vehicle: is this. This is a strut bearing. It sits underneath this piece. These top screws right here that have the three little rubber protectors, that's what you actually see when you pop the hood. I'm going to show you that. As you can see here, this is the piece that I was just showing you. Of course, this is the one that's on the vehicle, which is a little rusted since it's probably original. But in order to do that, we need to take the strut, out. Also, you will need some specialized tools. Well, specifically, you will need one very specialized tool. You will need one of these, a McPherson Strut Compressor, Spring Compressor. You'll see why a little later. I'll drop links to both of these in the video's description. Just note, I am using Moog parts. There are cheaper alternatives out there, but this is one of these jobs, honestly, I want to do it once. I don't even want to think about it afterwards, so. And yes, I'll drop a link to that also in the video's description. As always, I always mention safety, so I'll mention it in this video too. Working on a vehicle, always make sure you use a jack and a jack stand. As you can see here, I have them ready to go. And then be back once I get the wheel off. Okay, next. I got the car jacked up, got the tire removed. I've shown that enough. I'm not going to bother showing it. Next thing we need to do is take this off right here. This is for the sway bar end link. You can do this with hand tools. I'm going to be using an impact driver just to make my life easier and quicker. Keep the bolt from spinning, or keep the nut from spinning. As you can see, there's the nut, or keep the bolt from spinning, and then you're just going to disconnect it. Next thing we need to take off is right here. This nut, or this bolt, top and bottom, and the nuts on the other side. That's going to bolt the strut to the knuckle. Now I didn't do a video on this, but I actually ended up swapping out my sway bar end links. That's the reason why they don't look so rusted. Right here, if you notice, is kind of just the end of it's rusted. And there and keep it from spinning, or just use an impact gun like I did. Alright, after I get those two bottom ones off, I will be back, because then there's only one more thing to dismantle, which is these top three bolts here. And then the whole strut assembly should come. Okay, finally got those bottom bolts out. Boy, were they a pain in the neck. After you take the nuts off, if you take these off, as you can see, the top of the bolt has a little bit of these lines in there, and they have to be driven out. And they don't have a standard nut top either. So you have to drive them out, and then once you get one of them out, basically what you do is you take the nut, screw it back on there, and use a hammer and hammer on the nut so you don't destroy the threads on the bolt. Oh, that was a pain in the neck. But as you can see, this is out. This now is loose, which is what we want. And then next, I need to remove these three bolts, which are 13 millimeters. The bottom bolts there, these ones right there, are 18s that you'll need in terms of sizing. Alright. Alright, as you can see, I've got the top bolts mounted out, or removed, and as you can see, the strut is kind of just sitting here dangling, which it is, because there's nothing holding it in right now. And what we're going to do now is remove the entire strut assembly from the vehicle. Also be careful how far you stretch out this brake line here. you can see, this is it. And the part I'm after is right here. Okay, as you can see, I got the strut assembly out. Now, the next part, this is by far the most dangerous part of doing this job, is compressing the spring. There is a lot of tension on this single bolt, which is a 21 millimeter, by the way, for those playing along at home. Yes, I stole that line from EV blog. He can sue me. Anyway, this is where you need to compress it. This, in some cases, some people don't feel comfortable using like these style of spring compressors. If that's the case, that's fine. Then you can just take the assembly down to your local garage. They'll be more than happy to swap it out, charge you a few bucks, and then all you gotta do is reinstall it. So you can skip ahead to that. My case, I don't want to do that because my mechanic isn't open on the weekends, so I'm going to be using this. And I'll be filming the whole thing. So if this becomes a complete catastrophe and this flies off, well, you're going to see it. Here, try this again. Okay, biggest thing with these tools is make sure you get them on either side of the actual spring to even out the pressure as much as possible. Basically, you want to put it up as high as you can get it onto your actual spring. You want to put safety pins in, keep it from sliding out. Okay, now we got this top hat loose, because as you can see I can actually spin it now. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this top bolt. As I said before, it's a 21 millimeter. Oops. Okay. As you can see, this is our bearing and bearing surface. It's completely foobarred. Just wanted to show this. This is a piece I have to put back on. It had the bottom part of the bearing on it. It was something like this. I just spent quite a bit of time peeling it off, but you can see it's part of the bearing. Okay, time for reassembly. I started by putting a little bit of anti-seize on that bearing surface. Now if you look at the old one, it has the rest of the bearing on it, but being I have a new replacement piece in my kit, which as you can see, it's right here, I don't need to peel this one off since it's shot. Since I've already got a new one, I'll just use the new one that's included in my kit. As I said, I'll link that in the video's description down below later. Of course, we need to put the actual new bearing on. Now it goes, white side goes on the inside like this. Just like that, and that's how it should look. Okay, now the actual strut assembly. And it clicks into place and should turn freely, which it does. Then in this case, you gotta set this up vertically. And you need to put this on there, and there's a rubber gasket that goes on the spring itself. Then you need to put your new top hat on with your bolt holes sticking up. Oops. Then you need to get the nut through. This is going to be a pain. This is where you may have to crank down a little bit more. Looks like what I'm going to have to do on my spring compressor. Just a little bit. Okay, I'm finally back. Now in reality a few hours has went by. I had one hell of a time getting this top bolt back on. I had to reposition the spring compressor 3 separate times. Oh my god, what a pain in the neck. Just a word of warning. Get your spring compressor as high as you possibly can. Which on here means you have to literally get it under here, one side, and then you want one side over on this side. About 180 degrees apart. It was a pain in the neck. Alright. Anyway, as you can see, I've got the new piece on. New bearing is installed underneath. You can't see it, but trust me, it's there. And actually, yeah, you can see it right there. It's right here. Little piece of black plastic back down there. Anyway, all right. Next step in this is exactly the reverse of what we were doing before, which is to put the strut back into the car, bolt it all back together, put on the sway bar end link, and that's it. You're done. And that's how you swap out a strut bearing on a 2008 Pontiac G5. As I've said before, all the tools, the spring compressor, and the exact part I used, which was by Moog, will be in the video's description down below. Thank you for watching, and hopefully you got something out of this. Also, if you're going to end up replacing a strut, the steps are pretty much the same. The only difference is instead of replacing just that top piece like I did, you would replace the entire strut, but the steps are pretty much the same. Alright. Have a good one. We'll catch you in the next video.